And the first one who is going to help us um, shed light on the issue is the chairman of the GRP, the GRP panel in the talks. We're talking about Secretary Rodolfo C. Garcia, formerly General Garcia, who was appointed by President Macapagal Arroyo on July 9, 2007, 15 months ago, as chairman of the government of the RP Peace Negotiating Panel. His involvement in the peace negotiations started when he was named co-chair of the Joint Coordinating Committee on the Cessation of Hostilities, which is a GRP-MILF mechanism mandated to monitor and implement the ceasefire agreement. This was during his incumbency as the Vice Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Soon after his retirement from the military service, he was appointed as Undersecretary of the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process. So there we have it. General Garcia, would you like to take the podium? Would you like to sit? Would you like to sit down here?
I'll take the podium.
He will take the podium.
Thank you, Madam Winnie Monsot, Winnie.
I thought you forgot my name.
And greetings to the President Estrada, the distinguished panel of discussants, Dato Michael Mastura of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, former Senate President Franklin Diliman, my former boss in the DND, Secretary Orly Mercado. A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. I had been asked to assess the current government policy on the Moro conflict, as implied or explicit in the GRP-MILF Memorandum of Agreement on the ancestral domain and its aftermath, against the recommendations of the 2005 Philippine Human Development Report, to evaluate if the recommendations were valid then and with the current realities now, and as a way forward towards a peaceful resolution to said conflict, assess if those recommendations are still valid now. May I just say that I am no longer in the panel. The panel had been dissolved. Right now, I am a private citizen, and that's my status as I speak before you. When the PHDR report of 2005 was issued with its recommendations, the peace process with the MILF was proceeding, but not without difficulty. Negotiations are inherently difficult processes, not walks in the park. Much, however, was accomplished in 2005 until August 2006, as mentioned in the slide, when talks got snagged over the territory strand of the ancestral domain. The impasse was to last until November of 2007, more than 1 year. But typically, in these on and off again protracted negotiations, and in accord with the PHDR recommendations, negotiations continued, overcoming these episodal impasses and breakdowns. Hopes were running high as the negotiations were seen leading towards the MOA being signed last 5 August of 2008. It was not to be. The MOA, now dead, was in accord with the track proposed in PHDR 2005 to give priority to the MILF negotiations over the two other tracks, that with the MNLF and the other with the Abu Sayyaf, or with the terrorist group. Uncannily so, because frankly, the PHDR recommendations were not a reference point for the then panel, which was chaired by Secretary Yong Afable, by some bureaucratic lapse, perhaps. The panel, however, clearly saw the need that the PHDR had also seen, the urgency to foster a regime of peace in troubled Mindanao through principled negotiations, which trajectory was to achieve a just political settlement of a seemingly intractable Moro problem. As the MOA showed, the panel adopted an approach that refused to be boxed in by the oft-used traditional approaches and experiments of the past, which were widely assessed to have failed to deliver on the aspirations of the Bangsamoro. It was a bold, out-of-the-box tack that aimed to strike a balance between the legitimate aspirations of a minority people and the non-negotiable requirements of Philippine sovereignty and territorial integrity. The panel which crafted the MOA acknowledged that the problem which had festered for long and caused so much destruction in lives and property, and which impeded national development, and that specifically of Mindanao, must be resolved, and now. This could be the last opportunity presented to us to settle a lingering problem before the next generation of leaders of the MILF, whom we are dealing with, fade away to give way to a younger generation of leaders, more impatient, deeply suspicious and distrustful of government, and with a more progressive, activist, and possessed of a dangerous disposition. They will be a harder group to deal with and imperils a shift from the current negotiation-oriented, pragmatic, and tempered engagements with the MILF into a possibly more forceful, radical, and adverse to negotiations mindset in the assertion of the Bangsamoro people's aspirations among these younger people. Commander Bravo and Commander Cato, the ones who perpetrated the pillage and murder in North Cotabato and Lanao del Norte just very recently, typify this sect. And there could be more of this segment in the MILF who could tilt to a new norm of behavior and methods in achieving their aspirations, especially if negotiations fail to achieve any real concessions for the Bangsamoro. There is an urgency to the task of negotiating, given that if negotiations get protracted or ultimately fail, the rise of this group may come to be, and thus the specter of more destructive confrontations and resultant damages may be greater than one can imagine. It would be a quantum leap from the level of conflict we have known in the past. We might be seeing a new dimension of conflict inspired by new jihadist activism.